Thank you very much, and thank you for the introduction. So it's my great pleasure to introduce this panel session this morning, Training the Trainers Wherever They May Be. I think you can see the general sort of topic we'll be dealing with today. It's my great pleasure to welcome two colleagues who on paper come from academia. So I've got Katell, HERNÁNDEZ-MORIN and Nicolas, FROELIGER, and two colleagues who on paper come from the world of LSP. So Dorota PAWLAK and Oleksandr BONDARENKO. We'll look into the nuances of that as we go. Just a brief word about the organization of today's session. So we have an hour and we realize that people will be hungry and needing to talk to each other over lunch afterwards. We'll be starting in a moment with a short interactive poll to try to get everybody in the room and everybody following us online to situate ourselves with respect to this question of how best to train translator trainers. I'll be then asking each of the four panelists to position themselves with respect to this question. We then have a fairly classic roundtable discussion with four fairly broad questions we'll be asking everybody to contribute to. Then at the end, we want to make sure there is some time left for questions and discussion with the audience. So please take a few notes about things as you're going along. It looks like we'll have to take questions at the end rather than during the session. So questions can be asked in the room or on Slido as for previous sessions. We're also going to make 3 or 4 minutes right at the end to launch a new survey. We want to try to actually gather some more information about the different stakeholders' views of how translator trainers should be trained, particularly at a moment where there's a lot happening in the language industry, there's a lot of movement, there's a certain amount of anxiety. So I think more than ever, we need each other's ideas and feedback on how to move forward here. So to begin, could we have the first Slido poll, please? The question basically is, who's here? Are you a translator trainer in a university, in an LSP? Are you a student? Are you an industry representative? Are you an institutional representative? That's the proud freelance professional translator. Language experts bouncing off our discussion earlier this morning. So we've hit a little over 100 responses to the answer here, and I think we can already see that we have a fairly diverse makeup of people present in person and online today. We have translators in various contexts. We have translators, we have people working in areas like quality assurance, we have people working in LSPs, we have people working in universities, and so on. And I might just now move, and we might leave the poll as it is for the moment. I'm going to move to the next slide, just to compare with the makeup of previous Translating Europe Forum sessions, where we've also had a very wide cross-section of industry stakeholders. I thank the TEF organizers for providing this data, which is from 2023, but it's very similar to the data from other Translating Europe forums. The reason for making this comparison is to point out that we are here together to share our views. And this is, I think, sort of a fairly crucial moment for us to be able to exchange ideas and see what perspectives we can bring together. We have the second Slido poll, please. So what keywords best describe your experience with translator training? It says voting closed on the Slido. Here we go. Here we go. So outdated and practice are winning from the start, with fun coming just behind. And again, we're already seeing a very diverse mixture of responses. Again, practical and theoretical and on the job and outdated. Perfect in capitals, underdeveloped. And what we're seeing here is relatively similar to the feedback we've had so far in the work we've done so far on how translator training works, that it's a very broad church, that there is very little cohesion amongst the responses to how this happens in general. So different things are happening in different places, perhaps in responses to different needs. But there seems to be clearly a need for a little bit more thought about how this can actually work and what we can learn from each other. Could we have the third Slido, Paul, please? So what keywords best describe the translator training needs that you see? So practice is definitely ahead of the pack. See, technology, industry-focused, job-specific, technological, but also things like a broader vision. Continuous learning, transferable skills, state of the market, adaptability, errors and error sources, responsible use of AI, of course, specialization. So all of these are keywords that have come up in this morning's discussion as in terms of needs. But what I think we can again see is that the needs identified are also rather broad. We'll leave this poll up for just a moment and then I'll move on to into the next I'll move on to the next. Thank you. I'll move on to the next slide in just a moment. While people continue to fill this out, just a very brief background to how and why this session came about. So, Train the Trainer initiatives are not new. There have been quite a few of them across Europe and doubtless in other parts of the world in the last couple of decades. How my colleagues and I got interested in this in particular was as members of the AFUMT, the French Translator Training Program Association, where we, like other groups, have sort of tried to work together on how to improve collaborations between traditional university teaching, how we can improve relationships between research, practice and training, what each stakeholder can bring to the other stakeholders. Today's session follows on from a Translating Europe workshop that we organized in Dijon in France in November 2024. It was organized in French, but my students are currently working on subtitling it in English, so we hope to soon make available an English version of this. This was followed up by a session at the EMT network meeting in Warsaw in June 2025, where we launched a short survey which received a total of 14 responses, so I'm not going to present all of the 14 answers today, where we asked about needs, which again, like the answers we've just seen today, were rather diverse. We saw things on AI, we saw things on creativity, we saw things on hard specific skills, we saw things on soft skills, and we saw things on competence frameworks. So all of these things seem to fit with what we're here today to discuss. Existing innovations identified were things like the EMT working groups, other types of translator networks, different types of tools, also discussions around internships, simulated translation bureaus, events for newcomers to translator training. So all of these were identified as possible things that we could build on. And training priorities identified were, firstly, AI and technical literacy and data literacy. Secondly, and this interested us, how to assess students on these new competences. thirdly, continuing education, and fourthly, soft skills in that order. So these were sort of the needs perceived. Then we can see that some of the same results here, but also a greater diversity of results from a larger number of respondents today. Without further ado, though, it's time to move on from what everybody in the room thinks to what our four invited panelists think. So I'm going to ask, firstly, each panelist to introduce themselves in a couple of minutes and sort of position themselves with respect to this question of how we train translator trainers, and we'll then move on to a couple of specific questions. So could we go back to the slides, please? And I'll put these questions up so people can get their heads around them before we start. So, Dorota, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm a localization consultant, translator and trainer based in Amsterdam. And in my role as a trainer, I mainly help individuals and teams to explore how to use AI in localization effectively and how to expand localization skills so the translators and localizers are future-proof. Thank you.
Katell?
Yes.
Hello, so my name is Katell HERNÁNDEZ-MORIN. I'm the head of the master's degree in translation, interpretation and technical writing in Rennes, the city of Rennes in France. But here today I mostly represent the AFUMT as its president. So a few words about AFUMT quickly. It's resolutely oriented towards professional and specialized translator training. It tries to bring closer and to highlight the best practices in education, research, and it also defends strongly the translation and interpreting sector in front of institutions, for instance. It's a very active association. It has quite close links with professional associations such as SFT, here represented, for training. We organize, for instance, the SFT with us organize an annual training for complementary training for students on the translation market, the ways of settling down on the market, for instance. And we also have links with the Chambre nationale des entreprises de traduction, which represents mainly the SMEs in translation in France. It also organizes an annual day with doctoral presentations, webinars, conferences such as the Translating Europe workshop that Will mentioned. And it offers grants for all kinds of events, scientific, professional, or education events, the celebration of the Translation Day, the International Translation Day, for instance. That's about it.
Very good. Nicolas, we're going in alphabetical or first name.
Hello everyone, I'm Nicolas FROELIGER. I used to be a translator with a small company some time ago, and I'm now sharing the direction of a master's program at Université Cité. The name of the master's is ILTS, Industrie de la langue et traduction spécialisée.
And Oleksandr.
Yeah, hello. So I represent industry here. Actually, I'm a head of translator company in the very center of Ukraine. And I'm also a member of the language industry group, which I represent here today. And later on, I will speak more about what we are doing there and how we try to get industry and academia closer together to each other. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. And so everyone can see we've got four sort of fairly broad questions which are up on the screen for everybody to see. So I'm going to ask each of the panelists to respond in their own way to each of the questions in turn. So the first one is, are needs in university training the same as in LSP-based training? And are the methods used to do this the same? I wonder if, Dorota, you'd like to begin.
So there are some similarities and there are some differences. I will start with what's similar. What's similar is that for the training to be effective, whether it's at university or for translators or for translation agencies, it has to be tailored to the target audience. So we have to meet the needs of our learners, of our students, or our target audience in general. And all this means that, we have to prepare our learners for the future, which means we have to give them a very broad set of skills, but there's no one person, no one trainer who can present and give them all these necessary skills, which in turn means we need collaboration between different professionals, which also leads to collaboration between universities and translation agencies, translation businesses. So that's what's similar. We always need to adapt our training to the needs of the learners, and we need to have an open mind to have a collaboration between different stakeholders.
Okay. And just to bounce off that, so I know you've had experience working in an LSP context and university context. What would you see as the primary differences?
The main difference is universities focus on theory more than LSPs. So in translation business, it's all about profit, it's all about chasing deadlines and making sure customer is satisfied. Whereas at university you have more space, more time for research and reflection. So these are the main differences, and every time we develop a training we have to have these differences in mind.
Thank you. Anyone want to jump in? Katell, maybe?
Okay, so I don't think I will describe in detail the needs for the LSPs. Instead, this is not the medium I know best, although we're quite exposed to it through a lot of initiatives in the training programs. I would say for the university part, that the training for us and for students concerns mainly initial training, but also lifelong learning. And I have to say that we also have quite a few students who are actually professional translators and who come for a complementary training. So that has to be said to understand why it's like a continuum and not a separation between theory, practice. And actually I think, well, theory is still present in the university training programs, especially in research, but it's more and more, it gives way more and more to practice, that word that we saw a lot. So what could I say? For trainers, what is the need? For trainers at the university, of course the need is to get updated with technological changes, but that's for everyone, I think, in LSPs as well, since the pace is really accelerating. Research, of course, for trainers, the need to be updated in the knowledge of how the market evolves, how the business management evolves, the tendencies, and the methods in the at the university are mainly, well, first of all, the training sessions offered by the proper university. That's something that's perhaps not so well known, but there are quite a few modules that are offered even on technology matters for trainers. And perhaps the most important one is pair exchange between academics, but also between academics and professional trainers, because there are a lot of professional trainers in the university programs now. And especially through, for instance, simulated translation bureaus, which are very common among EMT programs, for instance. Conferences help a lot too, to give the sort of meta outlook on scientific advances. And we have this in France, but I'm quite sure that in all Europe it exists, the improvement boards, which unite professional partners, university professional partners, and the program itself, teachers and students. And in these improvement boards, we talk about how the programs can be improved with the professional input of the companies who hire our students as trainees, for instance. So all this informal exchange, I think, helps a lot in the training.
Thank you, Katell. Maybe Oleksandr, so you represent here the Lind Industry Group today, but you also have some experience in university teaching.
Sure, of course, I do have actually as much as in the industry, since for the whole period of time I'm a part of industry for 26 years. For the same very period of time, I'm an associate professor of Central Ukrainian State University. So I'm standing with one leg of mine in industry and with another in the academia. And sometimes I see this needs even a bit more, being a kind of translator between one world and another, industry and academia. And speaking about the need of training, I should say that both industry and academia do need training. But the origin of this training, the entity of this training is a bit different. For academia, it's their core activity. So they build the fundamentals of the future career of a professional. And for industry, it's rather what Dorota also mentioned is tailoring per company needs. So if academia has done their job properly, we at industry only just adapt a well-prepared graduate for specific needs of a certain company. So this is what happens theoretically in the ideal world. But in practice, sometimes we still have to do a bit more than that. Maybe to help the graduate to acquire some new skills like post-editing or prompting. And in short, technically, if academia has done their job right, industry is only tailoring. And if you are part of academia and somebody from industry says that we use a lot of academic methodology, it should be a buzz for you, a signal that academia hasn't done something good enough and industry is starting to cover that. So the methodology shouldn't be the same, it should be a bit different. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Oleksandr. And Nicolas.
I like what Oleksandr just said. It's actually a continuing process, and that's very well. That's also my experience and impression. I would like to add that trainers, are actually to a very large extent the same. In most masters that I know of, the vast majority of teaching staff and taught hours are actually performed by professionals, and also our purposes are the same. We are all training for the market at various stages of any particular individual's life. Well, instead of separation, I think we should talk about interconnectedness. I know that's a long word, but training freelancers, companies, and not to forget research. I think research is also important if it's applied, because if it gives you the broader view, and that's what we need to future-proof the profession. So it should be thought of as a continuum across the various paths that your career will take, from student to, I don't know.
Thank you very much.
Just to add maybe, yes, Nicolas, so academia should not underestimate itself. Good researchers, right researchers is something that industry also needs. So if academia suggested, yes, it's also the added value, another point for cooperation. Thank you.
Very good. We've covered the first question to everyone's satisfaction. So this maybe then leads us to the second question, which was designed to be a little bit provocative. So we hear about the idea of a skills gap in the language between university graduates and the needs of industry. So I'd now like to ask each of the four panelists what you think it is, and by extension, whether it exists, why it exists, and so on. So who would like to begin? Dorota.
In my experience, it does exist, especially when it comes to subject matter expertise, business and technology skills. And what it is, well, I guess we have all experienced it. So it doesn't matter what we study, what kind of education we have. Every time we go out and start working for a company, or when we open our own business, there's always some difference, some gap that we have to cover by studying and learning. It's a lifelong learning process. to be able to close that gap.
Thank you. Maybe Nicolas, do you want to?
Well, definitely. I think the skills gap does exist, at least in a lot of people's minds and perceptions, because of course we all tend to see things from our own particular point of view and then make broad generalizations out of that. So to me, the big question is, how do we overcome this? How do we know, as translator programs, for instance, what happens and what should be done in the professional world? One possible way, to me, is careful monitoring of internships. Well, of course, today, nearly every translation program has internships with durations that can vary from, I think, 6 weeks to 21 weeks, which is not exactly the same. But a lot of things depend on how those internships are actually monitored regarding the interplay between professional worlds and the program, and especially LSPs in this case. So I will try to avoid generalizations and still reflect from the way things are organized at my master's at Université Cité. Because we are a so-called work-study program. That's English for formation en alternance in French. That means that every other week our students are working in LSPs, other companies, NGOs, or government bodies, and they get compensated for that, which is important. So that's for starters. But we also have a two-way feedback. 3 times in the year, we have detailed assessments from the employers. We also have presentations by students of what happens inside their companies. And we invite every supervisor in the governing bodies, such as improvement boards, thank you, and public defense of public debriefing by students of what we're doing. So that's and they do come not because they like us and we like them, but because that's carefully invested time and money for them. That's also part of their lifelong training. So that's one way for us to keep abreast of what happens with them, and vice versa, because innovation goes both ways, actually. Sorry for taking a long time.
Oleksandr?
Yeah, thank you. So speaking about the gap, I should say that it mostly exists in new skills. So the skills that are needed for newly made services, like post-editing, for example. And here we should differentiate. All of you represent EMT universities. And EMT universities are the selected ones, yes. They have all the skills and everything is on top. Yes, and we have average European university, which is a bit different, I should say. So whenever just we speak about this gap, we should probably apply and speak about average university, not the EMT university or any EMT program. But still, back to the gap. So yes, the new skills, and maybe it shows a bit the nature of academia, which is actually not bad, but the nature is that they need some time to acquire it. So they are a bit slow, and it used to be at all times. It's not only now. It's not that bad, it's just their nature. Just speaking about the post-editing as a skill, I wanted to make sure that it's not something that seems to me. So last year, I made a research, national research in Ukraine, and we asked LSPs all over the country whether they are satisfied more with the post-editing skill of graduates in comparison of that skill of seasoned professionals. And my guess was that actually maybe graduates are more open for post-editing. They don't have still formed translation skill, which somehow prevents them to post-edit in a better way. But I was wrong. So in spite of the fact that actually translation skill somehow prevents from post-edit in a good way, but still it gives the seasoned professionals idea how the ready text should look like. So still the gap does exist a bit because industry, LSPs are much more not satisfied with the graduates, the way how can they post-edit in contrast to the seasoned professionals who most likely learn to post-edit themselves. So, and actually it's partially also proved by the poll that we had at the beginning. Yes, one of the answers was that training is a bit outdated. And this is the nature of the academia. I don't think it's that bad, because if the basic training they're given is okay, we can live with it. So it's not that critical. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to bounce off that, Oleksandr, you're talking about the nature of universities. Do you think this means that universities should teach skills that will inevitably be slightly out of date, or that they should teach means for acquiring skills?
Well, I think that actually universities nowadays should produce a professional. It's like a special soldier, yes, that is already, even if he or she doesn't know something, he's ready to do something to learn it, him or herself. So you cannot teach everything. You cannot teach a professional that is ready for all the skills that will be needed for until the end of their career. So but to teach them to be ready to learn later on, the lifelong learning, this is what is quite possible, and this is what the universities should do. Thank you.
Thank you. And Katell?
Yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I like your answer as well, and this is quite the philosophy that we've had in our master's degree, that we can't teach everything. We can't teach in depth the way such and such software is used, but we have to produce open minds and people who are agile. And so that's why we try. I mean, it's a challenge for universities as well, and especially with the breaks, the institutional breaks that we have sometimes. But we try and have them discover several software which do the same thing, such as CAT tools, such as post-editing tools and everything. But we must not give in to the language competence that they have to master, because that's their expertise at the end of the day. So we can't give in to that. So that's very important as well. And the danger integrating these young translators to machine translation post-editing right away is that it doesn't give them time to gain that experience and become real experts as translators. It's like when you learn to drive, you know how to drive, sort of, but you're not an expert, so it takes time to perfect that, and in translation it's the same thing. So, and I think the exposure, right away to post-editing doesn't help a lot. And of course this can be overcome by close training from companies as well to complete that training. I think it takes time, it takes feedback, a lot of feedback, but I think we can. If the more we work together, I mean, that's the lesson of the day, I think, that we should take. The more we collaborate closely, and the best professionals will produce.
Thank you. So what I'm taking away from this is that all of the panelists agree that the skills gap is something real, or is at least something that we need to watch and be careful for. It's something that, as you said, Oleksandr, it's something that probably is part of the nature of training, the time it takes for something to be, and it's the same thing for research to be published and then applied, and for something to happen in industry and then be applied in training is always going to be there. But what I'm also taking away from this, and I'd be interested in all of your 4 reactions, is whether you think this is becoming more urgent a thing to watch as the language industry continues to move faster. Not sure. Dorota, what do you think? I was inspired by your question at the start, so.
Yeah, we definitely have to keep an eye on updating our skills when the technology moves faster, when the whole business sphere moves faster. The faster everything moves, the faster we have to adapt. Not just to be able to teach someone the skills, but for our own sake.
Thank you.
I think that's a very important question because obviously things are changing faster and faster, and in theory programs are fixed, but that's only and upgraded every 4 or 5 years. But that's not what actually happens. If you take artificial intelligence, for instance, every program I know has integrated it one way or another, and some in a very massive way into their regular courses. As the evolutions happen. So, I think we have to work both ways. In fact, we have to train for the present market. That's obviously very, very important. And we also have to future-proof the profession, and seeing both the present and the future of the profession and adapt as things happen. So that's why I get up in the morning.
Yeah, I fully agree with Nicolas. So we should, academia should train for the present needs, but look ahead in advance a bit and see what they will need tomorrow. And frankly speaking, besides all the gaps we've been discussing, I should say that there are very good examples. So yesterday evening we've been discussing with some teachers, EMT teachers, and what they told me about at what level technology they are teaching the students is very impressive. So indeed they're looking, so it's already prompting. I'm not sure if every European company is teaching their staff to prompt correctly. And at the universities, they're already doing it. So that's it. Teach for current needs and look ahead to foresee what is waiting for us. That's it.
Yes, I agree totally on that. Yeah, prompting is becoming the main preoccupation for universities, not just in translation training, but other types of training. It shows because you can see all these new training programs that are coming for trainers as well as for students. And also somebody mentioned coding earlier, and I think coding has always been important and is getting more and more important now in translator training, even though sometimes students who mainly come from literary or backgrounds, or people who are fond of language but not perhaps so much of computing, we have to force them into that sometimes. But I think a little bit of coding, or sometimes a lot of coding according to training programs, cannot harm.
Thank you very much, everybody. So I think this brings us to a point where we can all see that there is much to be gained by collaborating more between university training environments, LSP training environments, university-based trainers, LSP-based trainers, even when these are sometimes the same people wearing different hats on different days. So this brings us to the final two questions. And I'm wondering, firstly, what barriers you see to improving better LSP university collaboration, particularly for translator training. So Dorota, would you like to?
I think the main barrier is the illusion of separation. So both academia and practitioners, we have more in common than we think we do. And once we start working together, that's where we can discover this. And what taps into this idea of illusion of separation is that sometimes the main thing that stops us from collaborating is our ego. So if we let go of the ego, for example, in business world, we stop thinking that what really matters is only profits. And if we let go of the need for self-interest, commercial self-interest, and simply be more open-minded, then the collaboration can happen. And the same, of course, on the side of academia. If we both let go of our egos, then it builds better future for the next generation of translators.
I think that's an excellent takeaway. So please leave your ego at the door, is the sort of a message there. Katell, do you want to continue?
I couldn't agree more with what Dorota has just said. And I think the barriers, we've already mentioned them, and they seem to be quite illusionary. We mentioned strong beliefs that perhaps universities all outdated. This is not true. There are a lot of variations according to local and institutional context. As I mentioned before, some universities in some countries have institutional barriers for better collaboration with the professional sector. So that's of course a problem. So no, I think what else? Yeah, I did have other barriers on my paper. Perhaps time and organizational incompatibilities can be a barrier, but it can be overcome if there is will to collaborate. It's just a question of organization. Perhaps finding regular slots when an exchange can be put into action, perhaps through associations. I believe a lot in associations, professional and training program associations, that can help coordinate and organize those common slots that can be found between the two worlds, let's say. Also funding a trainer, a professional trainer at a university perhaps can be a barrier, but if we try and organize through bilateral exchange of practice and know-how, we mentioned research earlier, I think that could work too.
Oleksandr.
Yeah, thank you. So this is exactly what we are doing at the Language Industry Group at the European Commission. We are trying to study, trying to find out the barriers between industry and academia, and trying to find the ways how to overcome these barriers. And this is what we have found, some of them, not all. So different views of translators' professional profile. We still somehow see on the graduate professional a bit differently what is he or she is supposed to be from that and another angle. Different set of values. For academia, it's academic appreciations, I mean in collaboration, when industry and academic collaborate. It's academic collaboration. For industry, it's social appreciations, possibly. Different incentives when cooperating. Academia is interested to increase university popularity. For industry, it's probably new resources, human resources to use. Different ideas of deliverables when cooperating, industry and academia again. Academia, maybe just such formal appreciation as academic grade for internship or a university diploma. For industry, it's new HR, again, resources. So incentives are quite different. Different project management methodology and different perception of communication pace and time. I remember a couple of years ago, before the war actually started, we cooperated with a number of universities within the so-called CAT for Grad project. And the aim of the project was to help universities to integrate technology, translation technology, into their programs. And I had a call from a university, a well-known university in Ukraine, and I consulted them quite well, so they knew what to do, and we agreed, okay, we will try to implement that, and we will get back soon. For me, soon was okay. The next week, maybe 2 weeks, not more, but they got back in 9 months, and they continued speaking as if we were talking yesterday. So this is another perception of time and pace. Yes, but it's neither bad, it's not good. It's just we have industry and academia that we have. We just have to take into consideration it and move forward. Okay, these are the barriers, and I'm sure that we will overcome all of them, and there will be something good out of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicolas.
Well, instead of repeating what has been said very well, I would say that in the past 20 to 25 years, I think the barriers have moved, and they're completely different now from what they were. There used to be a definite gap some time ago, I think before EMT, in fact, between academia and LSPs. Things were not exactly smooth. And over the years, and also thanks to the EMT, things have changed, and we've now realized that we're actually part of the same universe. But what we need to do is convince the rest of the world of the relevance of good quality professional translation and the relevance of well-trained human translators. So that's a very, I think that's what we should do now, outreach.
I fully agree, yes. If some years ago, maybe 15, I used to camouflage some industry information that I wanted to give to my students within the classical courses. But now they ask me, I'm in the academia, they ask me, give us more industrial stuff. So it's a very good sign of a proof what you're saying, absolutely.
And so now we in fact have to camouflage academic research as professional information.
Okay.
Excellent. So we've discussed here the sort of barriers to collaboration, and this discussion, I will admit, has actually been more optimistic than I was expecting as it's emerged, which is hopefully a good sign for everybody for the future. Before we turn the session over to questions from the audience, I'd just like to ask the four panelists whether you have any remarks on how you think universities and LSPs can collaborate better. We've already covered a bit of this ground, but if you'd like to sum up, maybe Katell to start for a change of order.
Okay, how can we do better? Well, I think first of all we have to all consider that there's an emergency to work together in that continuum that we described, to improve mutual training. And I think that there's one key word also that I use quite a lot, ultimately, is the visibility. We have to work on the visibility of translator training, expert linguist training, if you want to call it that way, and also on the competence, translators' competence in general. So I think that's one aspect on which we should all work, and I think that the debate that was organized on standards go in that direction as well. The fact of signing a translation and on exposing the fact that it relies on standards. Okay. Also, again, I will repeat myself a bit, but I think associations, academic and professional associations, can help in collaborating better, because it gathers, because together we're stronger, first of all. And also the EMT will help a lot, definitely. I think the new platform, the Knowledge Center that has been put in place by the DGT will certainly help gaining that visibility and exchanging best practices and publishing papers, practical papers on specific skills. I think those workshops, those Translating Europe workshops or other workshops of the sort are very useful too. I mean, we were surprised at the quality of the presentations that have been given by academics, but also by professional representatives on things such as mentorship for young interpreters or young translators through the SFT. So this is really rich, I think. And also, I think another thing that could help is if LSPs accept to participate in more practical research on the professional habits that are used and on the evolution of workflows. I think that can help a lot in progressing together.
Thank you. Oleksandr, let's change.
Yeah, okay, yes. How to collaborate even better. So actually this is the question that we also try to resolve at Language Industry Group. And we even worked out, we are elaborating now a kind of deliverable, the material that so far we haven't made up the marketing attractive name for it, but it's a kind of educational material. This is the material that will help, first of all, the Link Group and maybe in academia itself to promote industry-academia cooperation. So several months ago, actually at the end of May, we conducted a survey at the Link Group. Actually, it was dedicated to internships, but actually there is one question which is very much relevant to what we are discussing now. And that is why we worked out this educational material that will help to educate industry and explain to them why they need cooperation with academia. Because for academia, it's quite clear why to cooperate with industry. Yes, to train students better, for them to join industry with no problems, and so on and so forth. But for industry, sometimes, even now, it's still not clear, and the survey proved that. So quite a number of industry representatives, they didn't know what are the advantages for them. That's why, so we, Lind Group, and maybe the whole academia should work and spread the word. What are the advantages? Why it should be done? And among, this is not all things, I cannot disclose everything, but still I will just name some of the points that would prove to industry why this cooperation is needed. So talent acquisition, access to young talent, cost-effective recruitment, lower hiring risks, better branding, workforce support, more capacity, improved morale, and opportunities for staff development, fresh ideas and new knowledge, indeed. So my company, we have internships regularly, and regularly have these fresh ideas from good intents. Then corporate social responsibility, which is also important, and some other points. And globally, probably two just advices, one to academia and one to industry. To academia, when cooperating, think this is actually very basic thing in business. If you cooperate with someone, you should take care not only about your own interests, but the opposite party's interests. This is actually not only academia, but industry also forget when cooperating together. So if you care about your partner's business, that your business will also prosper. And another point also, and now to industry. If you want to cooperate with academia, then mind the efficiency factor. So I have so many colleagues who were thrilled with my cooperation, my company cooperation with academia, and they wanted to do the same. And being so thrilled and enthusiastic, they invested so much once, that then realized that they cannot go on like that. So the recommendations is make it efficient. Do not invest much, but do it regularly. Then you will flourish and be prosperous from this. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe Dorota, would you like to continue?
I know what LSPs and freelance translators can do to collaborate better, which is to feel accountable. So it's not only the responsibility of universities to train new translators, but also ours, the practitioners. And the minimum we can do as translators or project managers is to reach out to our alma mater or any other university and just offer our skills, offer what we have learned, because it's wise to give back. It's wise to give back to your university and simply tell them what you have learned as a translator.
Thank you. And I'll ask Nicolas to wind up while I also share on the screen the link to your homework for today's session, which is going to be to give your own answers to this question.
Yeah, there's one thing that worries me is that we all agree on most points, that's a bit problematic. But to say things very, very simply, I think making our various events common should be systematic. Whether it be conferences, seminars, translating Europe workshops, as you mentioned, surveys. I'll take the EU-ATC survey, for instance, which started as an idea from LSPs, now as input from academia and programs, and that's a very good. That's a very good evolution. So that should become a reflex. And incidentally, that's also why I love the Translating Europe Forum, because that's one way to have all those different people reflecting together. So thanks for that also.
Excellent. Thank you to all of our panelists. Now it's time for some questions, but also time for anyone who wishes to share their ideas in a survey online. We're launching this survey today. We will share it by email and in various other channels, and we'll ask you also to share it with your networks, but feel free to flash the QR code right now if you wish to. The idea is to run this survey for a month to gather perspectives from different stakeholders, including trainers, translators, also students, about training translator trainers. We'll share the results at a minimum on the EMT Teamspace and on the Knowledge Centre. We also hope to turn this into a more substantial published paper if the data supports that. So we'll leave that with you now. I think it's now time for some questions, since time is getting a little bit short.
Waiting until it turns, there it's red. I'm here as a translator and interpreter, but also as a representative of the Dutch Association for Translators and Interpreters. And what we have been seeing is that because of the huge budget cuts in education, there has been a shift from like the language experts being trained at university to them being trained by the industry. And I feel that's quite a dangerous development. What we are seeing now is that LSPs have in-house educational institutes where they have interns, so they train them, but then they also assess them and give them a certificate, as a result of which they can be registered in the national registers. And it's like, we feel it's a bit of a bonkers development, to be honest. So I also feel there is a call to action to politics to step in here. And yes, collaboration is great because we need the input from the industry for education and also the input from education for industry. But please do not pull everything into the commercial world. Keep academia where it is, because they offer valuable insights into our industry and the market. Luckily, politics is starting to see the light, at least in the Netherlands. But I'm just curious to see, how you see this development.
Yes, I'm not sure if you're talking about the classical academic internship that you've mentioned at the beginning, but if it's within this scope, then there is nothing bad about that. So internship is the meeting point of industry and academia. And actually this is the best way for academia to make sure if they are doing well. So this is not that bad. If they give a good feedback and say that the interns were doing well, then the academia was doing well. They trained them in such a way that they can join industry now and be well certified. So nothing bad about that so far, at least I don't see.
Yeah, if that were the case, great. But they're not even seeing a classroom at all. They're just being, they are a trainee from at the LSP. There is no academic involvement anymore, so everything is done via the LSP, and that I feel is a dangerous development.
This is what we call in my company traineeship. So this is that precedes involving the one. I mean, before we enroll the staff, we make this traineeship, and if the graduate is doing well at the traineeship, then we enroll him or her into the staff. So if for this purpose, then it's also quite okay. It's different from the internship, but it works. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yes, it's just the drill.
Fair enough.
Not too loud.
I think there's also an interesting counterpoint between this question and answer and the top voted question we see here about the idea that perhaps it's normal to feel undertrained, in inverted commas, when you begin in a company environment, because these environments are not the same and it's perhaps not in their nature to be the same environments. This is an interesting question.
I could answer that one, but I think Katell wanted to say something.
No. Yeah, just quickly, because this is quite preoccupying what you're describing, and I don't think it's what Oleksandr is describing as a traineeship, which is a good thing. This is when the actual companies are assessing the value of future professionals. So no, this is wrong. And I think and something that has been mentioned in June when we presented our workshop in Dijon. Several people came to us and said, "Oh, well, that's nice what you're doing at the FUMT," and there are other associations working each in their country also. But we feel that we are sometimes a bit alone. So I think if we could try and raise a sort of federation of associations of training programs, and perhaps be more influential on the political authorities, maybe at the European level. perhaps that could help put pressure on more local governments to raise budgets for proper training.
And I'd like to go back to the second question that said, is it normal to feel undertrained when you're graduating? I would say it's common, but it's not normal. You have to be aware of your competencies. And that's one of the things we're doing with the European Masters in Translation Competence Framework, which is a fantastic tool to make students aware of, first, of what is needed in the market, but also of what they have learned and can actually perform. And that's very useful also in the discussions they will have with their future clients or employers. So again, it's all in the mind. But I think, well, people in most masters I know are quite well trained for the professional world, and they're ready to perform as regular professionals without, at the moment they graduate, a need for further training in LSPs. Later on, they will have to be retrained, either in companies or through associations or back at a university. But at the moment they graduate, well, they're fit for the professional world.
Thank you very much. I'm just looking at our chair. Is it time to stop?
Yes, I would think so. It's just about time for lunch. If you have
So we can see the other questions, and we can see other very pertinent questions here on the board, and these are all things that we can discuss over lunch. So I'd like to thank once more the audience, but also and especially the panelists who have accepted to be here today. And thank you all.
Thank you.